All right, guys, so we have a new poll that just came out on Americans and their vices, and we have some interesting findings here. So they asked about alcohol consumption, they asked about smoking cigarettes, and they also asked about sex. And the trend with the numbers here paints an interesting picture. Let's watch.
My goodness gracious, this is a huge decline. Americans who drink alcohol, we are looking at the lowest level since the 1930s. What are we talking about? Just 54% on occasion Americans say that they drink alcohol. That's down from 4 points last year. That's down from 62% in 2023. And it is way down from the record high the last year that happened when it was 71% back in 1978. This record low is being driven by younger folks and Republicans as well, as they increasingly view the idea of drinking as an unhealthy habit.
On the drinking one, 71% of Americans drank in 1978, and now it's all the way down to 54%. So that's a big drop. But even just from a few years back, 2023 was 62% of the country that drank. Now it's 54%. So almost a drop of 10 points in just a couple of years. That's pretty big.
Same exact idea. It turns out we're giving up our vices a little bit. What are we talking about?
Smoked a cigarette in the last week. In 1974, 40% of the country smoked a cigarette in the last week. Now it's all the way down to 11%. In 2005, 25% of the country smoked a cigarette in the last week. Again, now it's down to 11. So, wow. 11, I would say, I honestly think that's kind of high. The 11% seems kind of high to me. That means like 1 out of every 10 people you meet smoke cigarettes, but I don't know. Around me, that's not necessarily the case, but 1 out of 10, that's still pretty high. All right, let's keep watching.
Smoked a cigarette in the last week. Look at this. In 2025, just 11%. A decade ago, it was 19%. 2 decades ago, 25%. You look back 1974, about 50 years ago, it was 40%. What is that? That's 1/4 the level. My goodness gracious. And again, younger folks are the ones who are saying that they are smoking less. And even when you combine in e-cigarettes, we're still looking at considerably lower levels than we have in past decades.
My initial reaction, though, looking at these numbers is like these vices were replaced. They're not just gone. It's not just like people no longer have vices. The vices used to be drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. Now, I think you're more likely to get a scenario where it's like, you know, drinking Monster energy drinks or other sorts of energy drinks. There are these like massive uppers. There are these big time stimulants, or, you know, popping Zins or vaping. Like, I just think that these vices were probably replaced with other vices. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it just went away.
People watching are also going to see this tab. And you're saying that people are giving up vices, and you think sex is a vice?
I'm not saying that sex is a vice. According to some people, perhaps it's a vice. It is not a vice according to the Harry Enton school of thought. But bow chickie wow wow going down. What are we talking about? No sex at all in the last year as Kate's off on the side laughing it up.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not laughing.
She's doing something. Sure. She's not even sure.
I'm blushing under all of this makeup.
She's blushing. There we go. In the 1990s, among all adults, no sex at all in the last year was 18%. In 2024, look at that. No sex at all. Up again, 10 points. Look at here. Those 18 to 21, look at that, 24% in the 1990s. It's the younger folks who are getting up sex. Look at that percentage. Doubled no sex in the last year. Maybe they do need a little bit of alcohol. Maybe those two are related.
Damn, bro. So look at that. So in the 1990s, only 24%, age 18 to 21, only 24% of them said, I had no sex in the last year. In 2024, 48%, nearly half of people age 18 to 21, young adults, said they haven't had sex at all in the last year. That is an explosion. That is like a really high number right there. That's totally different from the past. And that is probably tied to the rise of the internet, right? And more atomization and people spending more time alone, more time on social media. Like, I think a lot of people probably feel like, why would I go do anything when I could just sit here and do this, right? Whereas in the 1990s, yeah, the internet existed, but it wasn't good enough to like keep your attention all day, every day. So one of the first comments here, this person says, on its face, these trends are healthy, but to the extent that they are driven by risk aversion, atomization, helicopter parenting, online porn, marijuana legalization, etc., that's a different story. Yeah, that's the other thing. This person says, smoking has been replaced by vaping. Drinking has been replaced by energy drinks. Sex, well, sex has been shamed. I mean, I don't think it's been shamed. I think people are, well, maybe it has been shamed, but it's not like people just aren't having sex and that's it. I think they probably did largely replace that with online porn. Women scroll Instagram and Snapchat for dates. Men scroll porn sites for relief. Nature is healing and not the way we want. Gambling way up, porn way up, Bitcoin at all-time highs. Yeah, I wonder if they're smoking less weed. Yeah, they didn't include weed in this poll. It's like, I don't know what point they were trying to make with this segment. Were they trying to say that like the vices are down and they include sex in the vices? And Like, okay, so what? Everybody's getting more healthy? But no, I kind of agree with the criticism that people are vaping, people are taking Zins, they're having energy drinks, they're smoking weed, they're gambling, they're on pills. Like, there's just other shit. And in fact, I would venture to guess that vices, as a general rule, are actually up overall. It's just not vices that they tested for here. Because, yeah, when you live in a late-stage capitalist country and the jobs suck and there's no hope for the future, and the only gratification that you get is the instant gratification of hitting your vape or going on social media and being fucked up or whatever, like, yeah, people are going to rely. They're going to rely on the internet. They're going to rely on whatever their vices are, and that's where they're going to get their only fucking relief from. And so I would say the exact opposite of what they're trying to get at here is probably the truth, but we would need to do the numbers on that. And the other thing is, when you're dealing with stuff like this, I don't know, can you really take people at their word when talking about their vices in particular? I feel like that's one area where the numbers that are reported would skew lower than what they actually are, right? Because, like, you don't want people to know about your vice. It's a fucking vice, right? So you're assuming complete honesty across the board on this, but, you know, I would say overall vices have probably gone up, and that's not a good sign. And then the question is, like, well, how do we get back to a place where people can be more in person again? And I'm not one to make these arguments because I'm introverted and I like spending time alone more than I like going out to parties or whatever the fuck. But, you know, no doubt that it's healthier overall for people to actually get the fuck out there and do something with other people around them. And, you know, it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle once we're in this internet era. Once, you know, everybody's life is dominated by social media and being online. But one of the things that I've always talked about is it would be great if we could have these community centers in every single county in the country or every single voting district or whatever, however you want to make it. But just like a lot of community centers that are totally free where people can go and they can, whatever, you can play soccer, you can play hockey, you can, you know, go to the arcade that's there, you can fill in the blank with whatever sort of sporting activity, swim, whatever it might be, lacrosse, it doesn't matter. But to have these big community centers where people can get together, it's free, you go do some sports, go partake in a league or whatever. Like, I feel like we need something like that in order to bring people back to some baseline semblance of community where you even view other people as Americans and you sort of get away from what your vices are because we're more atomized, we're more in our own little bubbles. And I think the end result of that is bad and people's mental health takes a big hit. And that's another thing they didn't measure for in this poll, but I bet if you measured for, you know, increase in anxiety and depression and psychological problems, I bet that number would have skyrocketed as well. And that would not be great. People would be in rough shape. So, yeah, I don't know. Society's kind of cooked. And I wouldn't say that the drop in these particular vices is a good sign because they've just been replaced by other vices. It's just way more rare now to see somebody who smokes cigarettes or see somebody... Alcohol, yeah, there's still plenty of people who drink, but like I said, energy drinks, Zins, vapes, weed, gambling online, like all that stuff is probably at record highs. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.